Opposition leader Raila Odinga has called on African states to intensify the fight against corruption, saying it remains the biggest impediment to the continent's economic prosperity. "I am confident that Africa will accelerate and sustain higher economic growth. But, growth that enriches only the rich is not what we want," Raila said. He spoke on Tuesday during a public lecture at the Duke University in the U.S. Raila said African countries have the potential to sustain an annual economic growth of 7% per, a miracle he said can be achieved if corruption is slayed. He expressed optimism that inasmuch as fighting corruption in Africa is difficult, countries such as Kenya and Tanzania are making headway. Raila said they are setting the pace for others to emulate. "I sat down with President Uhuru Kenyatta and agreed to begin a new journey to a new Kenya, a Kenya where elections are not civil wars, where winners and losers embrace and where corruption is not a way of life. Now, in most African countries, the people's voice can no longer be ignored. Our actions are having a strong positive impact," Raila said. He, however, said the fight against corruption will only bear fruit in stable democracies. He told the West, particularly the U.S., not to kill African democracies in the quest to sustain business partnerships and anti-terror collaborations. "Democracy will enable our people to believe in policies and ideologies instead of ethnic affiliation, or what we call negative ethnicity," he said. Raila was making his first international address since his appointment on Saturday as the African Union Commission's High Representative for Infrastructure Development. The ODM leader said he will use the newly created post to open up the continent for trade with the outside world to spur economic growth. "This," he said, "includes the championing of the modernization and upgrading of selected trans-African highway corridors and their missing links. I strongly believe that the existence of a reliable infrastructure of roads and railways, running north to south, east to west of Africa, is critical to opening up the continent and making it the gateway to the 21st century, he said. The former Prime Minister said the 7% annual economic growth, that has in history only been achieved by 13 countries mostly from East Asia, can be replicated by African states. He, however, pointed out that favorable environment for exports of manufactured goods that drove the Asian miracle no longer exists today. Raila said Africa's economic growth will, therefore, be driven by African unity and political and economic integration.